Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
My wife always said I didn't pay enough attention to details. Guess she was right about that one thing, at least. If I'd been more observant, maybe I would have noticed the signs earlier. The late nights at the office, the sudden interest in yoga classes that somehow never made her more flexible at home. The way she'd clutch her phone like it contained state secrets. But I noticed plenty that night, at 2 in the morning when I was under the hood of my beat-up Honda Civic in our driveway. The radiator had been acting up again, and sleep wasn't coming easy anyway. That's when I heard Megan's voice drifting through the kitchen window, all giggly and breathless like a teenager. "Don't worry, Rick. He'll never suspect anything. He's too busy licking his wounds from the layoff to notice what's right in front of his face." Rick. I knew that name. Rick Brennan from her real estate office, the hotshot tech salesman who'd been helping them modernize their client management system. Apparently, he'd been modernizing more than their spreadsheets. I stayed perfectly still under that hood, my wrench frozen in my hand, listening to my wife of 18 years giggle about how oblivious her husband was. She wasn't wrong. I'd been so focused on finding another job after the plant closure that I'd missed the obvious signs of her betrayal. "I know, baby. Just a few more weeks and I'll file the papers. Then we can stop sneaking around like this." Papers. Divorce papers. My stomach dropped like I'd swallowed a bowling ball. The next morning, Megan was all smiles and coffee kisses, asking about my job interviews like she actually cared. I played along, watching her performance with new eyes. She'd always been good at real estate, because she could sell anyone anything, even a lie wrapped in concern. "How's the Honda running?" she asked, buttering her toast with practiced efficiency. "Still breathing," I said. "Unlike some things around here." She missed the dig entirely, already scrolling through her phone. Probably texting Rick about their next romantic rendezvous at whatever sleazy motel they'd picked for their affair. 3 days later, the universe decided to help me out. I was checking our shared email account for job responses when I found it. A message clearly meant for Megan's personal account that had somehow landed in our joint folder. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Room 237 at the Riverside Inn. I'll bring the champagne to celebrate your freedom. Ninus R. Room 237. The Riverside Inn was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions about wedding rings. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, never imagining my wife would be conducting business there. I forwarded the email to my personal account, then deleted it from the shared folder. If Megan wanted to play games, I'd learn the rules fast. That evening, I told her I was going to Eddie's boxing gym to work out some frustration. It wasn't entirely a lie. I was definitely planning to work out some frustration, just not with a punching bag. The Riverside Inn sat on the outskirts of town like a guilty secret, its neon sign flickering vacancy in pink letters that had seen better decades. I parked across the street and waited. At 8:30, Rick's silver Tesla pulled into the lot. At 8:45, Megan's Honda CR-V followed. Watching your wife walk into a motel to meet another man is like getting punched in the gut by someone wearing brass knuckles. It's not just the pain, it's the surprise that someone you trusted could hit you that hard. I sat in my car for an hour, imagining what they were doing in room 237. Then I got out and walked across the parking lot. Rick's Tesla was parked right under a security light, gleaming like a silver middle finger pointed at my marriage. I pulled out my pocket knife and carved "cheater" into the driver's side door, then added "homewrecker" on the passenger side for good measure. For the finishing touch, I squeezed honey packets from my glove compartment all over the door handles. The motel manager, a thin guy with suspicious eyes, watched me from the office window. I gave him a friendly wave and walked back to my car like I owned the place. 20 minutes later, Rick and Megan emerged from room 237, all smiles and satisfied looks, until Rick saw his car. The screaming match that followed was better than cable TV. Megan kept looking around frantically, while Rick tried to clean honey off his hands with motel napkins. I drove home and was watching the late news when Megan stormed through the front door. "Someone vandalized Rick's car at the gym tonight," she announced, her face flushed with anger and guilt. "Can you believe people would do something so petty?" "Terrible," I agreed, not looking away from the television. "Some people have no respect for other people's property or marriages." She paused, studying my face for signs of knowledge, but I kept my expression neutral. After 18 years of marriage, I'd learned to hide my thoughts when necessary. The police think it might be someone with a grudge, she continued. Well, when you mess with the wrong person's life, sometimes they mess back. Megan went upstairs without another word. I stayed on the couch, planning my next move. The Millbrook Harvest Festival had been a town tradition for 43 years, and Megan never missed it. She loved being seen at community events, networking with potential clients, and showing off whatever new outfit she'd charged to our credit card. This year, she brought Rick as her business associate. I watched them from the beer tent, nursing a Budweiser, and listening to Eddie Martinez, my old boxing coach, complain about the younger generation. Kids today don't know how to fight clean, Eddie was saying. Everything's dirty tricks and cheap shots. Sometimes dirty tricks are all you've got left, I replied, watching Rick's hand rest on the small of my wife's back as they walked past the ring toss game. You talking about those two? Eddie followed my gaze. Man, they're not even trying to hide it. He was right. Megan and Rick were acting like teenagers at prom, all lingering touches and whispered conversations. Half the town was watching them, and the other half was watching me to see how I'd react. Public humiliation's a powerful weapon, Eddie continued. Sometimes more effective than a right hook. That gave me an idea. The dunk tank was always popular at the festival, with local celebrities and town officials taking turns getting soaked for charity. This year, Rick had volunteered for the 3 o'clock slot, probably to show off for Megan. I bought $20 worth of baseballs and got in line. Rick sat on the platform in swim trunks and a tank top, looking like he owned the world. Megan stood to the side with her phone out, ready to record her boyfriend's performance for social media. Step right up, folks, the carnival barker called out. 3 throws for $5. Dunk the hot shot and win a prize. My first throw was deliberately wide. Rick laughed and made some comment about my aim that I couldn't quite hear over the crowd noise. Megan giggled. My second throw was closer, but still missed the target. Rick started taunting me directly. Come on, old man. My grandmother could throw better than that. The crowd was getting into it now, cheering and laughing. This was exactly what I wanted. My third throw hit the target dead center. Rick plunged into the tank with a splash that soaked the first 3 rows of spectators. When he came up sputtering and cursing, his perfect hair plastered to his head, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Lucky shot, he called out, trying to maintain his dignity while climbing back onto the platform. Let me try again, I said, buying another round of baseballs. Practice makes perfect. This time, I hit the target on the first throw. Rick went down again, and the crowd loved it. By the third dunk, people were chanting my name, and Rick was looking less like a hot shot and more like a drowned rat. Megan tried to pull me away from the game, but I shrugged her off. Just having some fun with your business associate, I said loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. He seems like such a good sport. On my 4th round of throws, I deliberately missed the first 2, building suspense. Rick was getting cocky again, making jokes about my accuracy. Then I nailed the target so hard the mechanism made a loud clang that echoed across the fairgrounds. Rick hit the water awkwardly this time, flailing and coming up with a bloody nose from hitting the back of the tank. The crowd's cheers turned to concerned murmurs. I think that's enough, Megan said, grabbing my arm. You're right, I agreed. I think I've made my point. Rick climbed out of the tank, holding his nose and glaring at me with pure hatred. Blood mixed with tank water dripped onto his chest. You did that on purpose, he snarled. Did what? Play a carnival game? It's all about accuracy, Rick. Hitting the right target at the right time. The crowd was dispersing now, but plenty of people had recorded the whole thing on their phones. By evening, videos of Rick getting dunked repeatedly would be all over Facebook and Instagram. Megan didn't speak to me on the drive home. That was fine. We didn't have much to say to each other anymore anyway. That night, I found her in the kitchen, crying into a glass of wine. You humiliated him, she said without looking up. I played a game at a public festival. If he felt humiliated, maybe he should examine why. Everyone was watching. Everyone's been watching for weeks, Megan. The only difference is now they're watching me fight back, instead of just taking it. She finally looked at me. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not as oblivious as you think I am. For a moment, I thought she might confess everything. Instead, she finished her wine and went upstairs to bed. I stayed in the kitchen, planning my next move. My daughter Jenna came home from college that weekend with a car full of dirty laundry and a head full of her mother's version of recent events. At 19, she had Megan's talent for drama and social media savvy that could destroy reputations with a few well-placed posts. "Dad, Mom says you've been acting really weird lately," she announced, dumping her clothes in the laundry room like she still lived here full-time. Define weird. Like stalking her friends and starting fights at public events. I had to admire Megan's spin control. In her version, I was the unstable one, causing problems for innocent people. "Your mother and I are having some difficulties," I said carefully. "Sometimes when people are caught doing things they shouldn't be doing, they try to make the other person look crazy." Jenna's expression shifted slightly. She was smart enough to read between the lines. "Are you guys getting divorced?" "That seems to be the plan." She sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly looking younger than her 19 years. "Is there someone else?" "You'd have to ask your mother about that." But Jenna was already pulling out her phone, probably to interrogate Megan via text message. The younger generation didn't believe anything until they'd verified it through multiple digital sources. While she was distracted, I made a phone call to Tommy Kowalski, an old friend from the plant who'd started a private investigation business after his own layoff. Tommy owed me money from our poker games, and I was ready to call in the debt. "I need you to follow my wife," I told him over the phone. "Get me photos, receipts, anything that proves what she's been up to." "Jesus, Mike. I'm sorry, man. How long has this been going on?" "Long enough. Can you do it or not?" "Yeah, I can do it, but it's gonna cost you." "Put it on my tab." Tommy was good at his job, probably because he looked like every other middle-aged guy in town, forgettable and invisible. Within a week, he'd documented Megan's entire routine. Tuesday and Thursday client meetings at the Riverside Inn, long lunches with Rick at restaurants outside of town, shopping trips to buy lingerie that I'd never seen her wear at home. The photos were damning. Megan and Rick kissing in his Tesla. Megan and Rick holding hands as they walked into the motel. Megan and Rick sharing dessert at a romantic restaurant 30 miles away, where they thought no one would recognize them. But the most interesting photo was one Tommy had taken by accident. Megan's best friend Sonia Caldwell sitting in her car across the street from the Riverside Inn, watching the motel like she was conducting her own surveillance operation. "That's weird, right?" Tommy said when he showed me the picture. "Why would her friend be spying on her?" "Good question." I'd known Sonia for almost as long as I'd known Megan. They'd worked together at the real estate office for 8 years, ever since Sonia moved to town after her divorce. She was the one who'd encouraged Megan to take the job there, and she'd been a constant presence in our lives ever since. But lately, I'd noticed something off about Sonia's behavior. She was always asking probing questions about our marriage, always ready with advice about how Megan deserved better, always pushing her to be more independent and assertive. What if Sonia wasn't just a supportive friend? What if she had her own agenda? I started paying closer attention to their interactions, and the pattern became clear. Sonia was the one who'd suggested Megan start working late. Sonia was the one who'd introduced her to Rick. Sonia was the one who kept encouraging her to file for divorce. The question was why? I got my answer the following Tuesday, when I overheard a phone conversation between Megan and her boss, Patricia Ellsworth, about the upcoming promotion to senior partner. "I know Sonia's been with the company longer," Megan was saying, "but my sales numbers are higher, and I've brought in more new clients this year." After she hung up, I casually asked about the promotion. "It's between me and Sonia," Megan explained. "Patricia says she'll make the decision next month." Suddenly, everything made sense. Sonia wasn't helping Megan have an affair out of friendship. She was sabotaging her marriage to destroy her competition for the promotion. A messy divorce, especially one involving an affair with a colleague, would be exactly the kind of scandal that would cost Megan the senior partner position. Sonia had been playing chess, while everyone else was playing checkers. But now that I knew the game, I could play too. The Ellsworth Realty office Christmas party was held at the Millbrook Country Club, the kind of event where everyone dressed up and pretended to like each other while jockeying for position and gossiping about their colleagues' personal lives. Megan had been looking forward to it for weeks, seeing it as an opportunity to impress Patricia and secure the promotion. She'd bought a new dress, made an appointment at the salon, and spent an hour on her makeup. She looked beautiful. She also looked guilty as hell when Rick showed up wearing a suit that matched her dress. I hadn't been planning to attend, but Megan insisted I come as her husband, probably to maintain appearances while Patricia made her final decision about the promotion. I agreed, but not for the reasons she thought. The party was in full swing when I arrived, fashionably late and stone-cold sober, while everyone else was working on their second or third drink. I found Megan holding court near the bar, Rick hovering at her elbow like an expensive accessory. "There's my husband," she announced, with forced cheerfulness. "Mike, you remember Rick from the office?" Oh, we're well acquainted," I said, shaking Rick's hand just hard enough to make him uncomfortable. "How's your car running these days, Rick?" His smile faltered slightly. "Fine, just fine." I spent the next hour mingling and making small talk, playing the role of the supportive husband while gathering intelligence. Patricia Ellsworth was indeed planning to announce the promotion tonight. Sonia was working the room like a politician, subtly undermining Megan's reputation.
Her name is saved as electrician. You've been calling the electrician at midnight for 4 months.
How stupid do you think I am?
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
With carefully placed comments about her recent personal distractions. Around 9 o'clock, I suggested Rick and I step outside for some fresh air and a man-to-man conversation. "I don't think that's necessary," he said nervously. "Oh, but I do." The country club's back patio was empty, except for a few smokers huddled near the entrance. I led Rick to a quiet corner, overlooking the golf course, where we could talk privately. "Nice night," I said conversationally. "Look, Mike, I think there might be some misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. I know exactly what you've been doing with my wife." Rick's face went pale in the moonlight. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Room 237 at the Riverside Inn, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. The restaurant in Oakville where you hold hands over dessert. Should I go on?" He started to back away, but I stepped closer. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued in the same conversational tone. "You're going to go back inside, make your excuses, and leave. Then you're going to find a new job in a different town. If you ever contact my wife again, if you ever come near my daughter, if you ever set foot in this town after tonight, I will make your life so miserable you'll wish you'd never been born. You can't threaten me." "I'm not threatening you, Rick. I'm making you a promise." To emphasize my point, I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Tommy's photographs, Rick and Megan kissing in the motel parking lot. "I have about 50 more like this one. I wonder how your fiancé would feel about seeing them." "My what?" "Jennifer Walsh, right? Lives in Boston, works for a marketing firm, thinks you're faithful and trustworthy." I found her Facebook page. Lovely girl. "I'm sure she'd be interested to know what you do on your business trips to small towns." Rick's mouth opened and closed, like a fish out of water. He hadn't realized I knew about Jennifer. "You're insane." "Maybe, but I'm also right, and I'm done being the nice guy who gets stepped on by people like you." I grabbed his shirt and pulled him close enough to smell his expensive cologne mixed with fierce sweat. "Leave, tonight. Don't say goodbye, don't make excuses, just disappear. Because if you don't, I'll destroy you so completely that no one will ever trust you with anything more valuable than a shopping cart." I released him and stepped back, smoothing down my own shirt like nothing had happened. "Enjoy the rest of your evening, Rick." He practically ran back inside. 5 minutes later, I saw him making hurried excuses to Megan and Patricia before rushing out of the party like his hair was on fire. Megan found me on the patio 10 minutes later, her face flushed with anger and confusion. "What did you say to him?" "We discussed his career prospects. He left without explaining anything. He just said he had a family emergency and drove off." "Maybe he did." She studied my face in the dim light, trying to read my expression. "You know, don't you?" "I know lots of things, Megan. The question is what you're going to do about it." For a moment, I thought she might break down and confess everything. Instead, she turned and walked back inside, leaving me alone on the patio. An hour later, Patricia Ellsworth announced that Sonia Caldwell would be the new senior partner, effective immediately. Megan's face crumpled like a house of cards in a hurricane. Sometimes the best revenge is just stepping back and letting people destroy themselves. The anonymous package arrived on a Thursday morning, 2 days after the Christmas party. No return address, no postmark, Just a manila envelope stuffed with photographs and documents that someone had slipped under our front door during the night. The photos were explicit and damning, Megan and Rick in compromising positions that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. But it was the accompanying note that really caught my attention. Thought you should see what your wife has been up to, a friend who cares. The handwriting was feminine, careful, and familiar. I'd seen it on birthday cards and grocery lists for years. Sonia Caldwell had just made a critical mistake. I called Tommy Kowalski and asked him to dig deeper into Sonia's background. What he found was fascinating. Sonia hadn't just moved to Millbrook after her divorce. She'd been forced to leave her previous job at a real estate firm in Hartford after being caught embezzling client funds. The charges had been dropped in exchange for full restitution and her immediate resignation, but the scandal had destroyed her reputation in the industry. She'd come to Millbrook to start over, and she'd been working toward the senior partner position for 8 years. Then Megan arrived with her natural sales talent and charismatic personality, quickly becoming the office favorite and Patricia's obvious choice for promotion. Sonia had orchestrated the entire affair, using Rick as bait to lure Megan into a compromising situation that would ruin her reputation and eliminate her as competition. The anonymous photos were supposed to be the final nail in Megan's coffin, ensuring that Patricia would never promote someone involved in such a sordid scandal. What Sonia hadn't counted on was Rick's sudden disappearance, which had left her plan incomplete. She'd panicked and sent me the evidence anyway, hoping I would create enough drama to destroy Megan's chances at the promotion. In a way, her plan had worked. Megan had lost the promotion, but Sonia had also revealed herself as the puppet master behind the entire scheme. I decided it was time for a family meeting. I called Megan, Sonia, and Jenna to the house on Saturday afternoon, telling each of them that I had something important to discuss about our marriage. They arrived within minutes of each other, probably expecting me to announce my intention to file for divorce or move out. Instead, I set up my laptop on the kitchen table and opened a Facebook live stream. "What are you doing?" Megan asked nervously. "Sharing some family news with our friends and neighbors," I said, adjusting the camera angle to capture all 3 women. "Everyone loves a good story about marriage and betrayal." "Turn that off right now," Sonia demanded, but I ignored her. "Good afternoon, Millbrook," I said to the camera, watching as viewers started joining the stream. "My name is Mike Thompson, and I have a story to tell you about friendship, loyalty, and the things people do for money and power." The viewer count was climbing rapidly as word spread through social media. Small-town gossip traveled faster than wildfire, and everyone loved a good scandal. "My wife Megan has been having an affair with her colleague Rick Brennan," I continued matter-of-factly. "But that's not the interesting part of this story. The interesting part is that the affair was orchestrated by her best friend Sonia Caldwell as part of an elaborate scheme to sabotage Megan's career." Sonia went white as a sheet. Megan looked confused. Jenna was recording everything on her own phone, probably for TikTok. "You see, Sonia has been after the senior partner position at Ellsworth Realty for 8 years, I explained to my growing online audience. When it became clear that Megan was going to get the promotion instead, Sonia decided to eliminate her competition by destroying her marriage and reputation. I held up the anonymous package for the camera. She even sent me these photos to make sure I'd cause enough drama to ruin Megan's chances. "That's not true," Sonia protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it? Then why were you parked across from the Riverside Inn, watching Megan and Rick? My private investigator has photos of you conducting surveillance on your supposed best friend." I showed Tommy's photograph to the camera, and the comment section exploded with shocked reactions from viewers. "You hired a private investigator?" Megan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hired several people, actually. It's amazing what you can learn when you start asking the right questions." I turned back to the camera. Sonia Caldwell was fired from her previous job in Hartford for embezzling client funds. She came to Millbrook to start over, and she's been manipulating everyone around her ever since. "Stop," Sonia pleaded. "Please, just stop." "Why should I? You didn't stop when you were destroying my marriage. You didn't stop when you were manipulating my wife into betraying everything we built together. You didn't stop when you were using my family as pawns in your sick game." The viewer count had reached over 300 people. Half the town was watching this unfold in real time. "Here's what's going to happen," I announced. "Sonia is going to confess to everyone exactly what she did and why she did it. Then she's going to pack up her office and leave town, just like Rick did. Because if she doesn't, I'll make sure everyone knows about her criminal history and her pattern of manipulation and betrayal. I won't do it, Sonia said defiantly. Then I'll do it for you. I pulled out a folder full of documents, court records from Hartford, bank statements showing suspicious transactions, emails between Sonia and Rick that Tommy had somehow obtained through his network of contacts. Sonia Caldwell stole $43,000 from her clients in Hartford, I read aloud. She avoided prison by making full restitution, but she was banned from working in real estate in Connecticut. She came to Millbrook under false pretenses and has been planning this scheme for months. Sonia broke down completely, sobbing and begging me to stop the broadcast. But I wasn't finished. She introduced Rick to my wife specifically to seduce her. She encouraged the affair, provided alibis, and even helped them find places to meet, all so she could destroy Megan's reputation and secure the promotion she felt entitled to. I turned to face Sonia directly. The only thing you didn't count on was me fighting back instead of just rolling over and taking it. Please, she whispered. I'll leave town. I'll disappear. Just stop this. Too late for that. You wanted to play games with people's lives? Now you get to face the consequences. I ended the Facebook live stream and closed the laptop. The kitchen fell silent, except for Sonia's quiet crying. Pack your things, I told her. Be out of town by tomorrow, or I'll release everything else I have on you. After Sonia left, Megan and I sat at the kitchen table in awkward silence. Jenna had gone upstairs, probably editing her TikTok video about her parents' dramatic confrontation. I'm sorry, Megan finally said. I'm so sorry about everything. Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught? Both. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. I appreciated her honesty, even if it came too late to save our marriage. I've already filed for divorce, I told her. The papers will be served on Monday. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? Now you figure out how to rebuild your life without Rick or Sonia, and I figure out how to rebuild mine without you. Can we at least try to be civil, for Jenna's sake? We can try, but the trust is gone, Megan. You can't come back from what you did. She went upstairs to pack her things, leaving me alone in the kitchen where we'd shared thousands of meals and conversations over 18 years of marriage. My phone was buzzing constantly with calls and messages from friends, family, and neighbors who'd watched the Facebook live stream. The story would be all over town by morning, and probably all over the internet by evening. But I didn't care about the gossip or the drama anymore. I'd fought back against people who'd tried to destroy my life, and I'd won. It wasn't the victory I'd wanted, but it was the victory I'd earned. Sometimes being the last gentleman standing means being the only one left with any dignity. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in April, with all the paperwork signed and assets divided according to Connecticut state law. Megan got the house. I got my pension and half the savings account, and we agreed to split custody of Jenna during her college breaks. Rick never came back to Millbrook. According to mutual friends, he'd moved to California and was working for a tech startup, presumably far away from his Boston fiancée, who'd broken up with him after seeing the Facebook live stream. Sonia had disappeared completely. Her apartment was cleaned out within a week of our confrontation, and Patricia Ellsworth told people she'd taken a job in Florida. Nobody believed that story, but nobody cared enough to investigate further. I found a new job at a manufacturing plant in the next town over, making slightly less money but enjoying the peace of mind that came from working with people who didn't know my personal history. The commute gave me time to think, and the physical work helped me sleep better at night. Jenna adjusted to the divorce better than expected, probably because she'd documented the whole thing on social media and become something of a local celebrity among her college friends. She spent spring break with me in my new apartment, and we talked honestly about what had happened to our family. Do you hate Mom? She asked one evening over pizza. No, I said, and meant it. I hate what she did, but I don't hate her. Hate takes too much energy, and I need that energy for other things. Like what? Like figuring out what comes next. What came next was simpler than I'd expected. I worked, I exercised at Eddie's gym, I read books and watched movies, and learned to cook meals for one person. I went on a few dates with women I met through online apps, but nothing serious developed. Maybe it was too soon, or maybe I was too damaged, or maybe I was just enjoying the peace of a life without drama and betrayal. The Facebook live stream had made me something of a local folk hero among divorced men and wronged spouses. People would stop me at the grocery store or the gas station, to tell me their own stories of infidelity and revenge, as if I'd become the patron saint of marital justice. I didn't enjoy the attention, but I understood it. Everyone wants to believe that good people can fight back against those who wrong them, and actually win sometimes. On a warm Saturday evening in June, I was grilling burgers on the small patio of my apartment when my phone rang. It was Tommy Kowalski. "You're not going to believe this," he said without preamble. "Try me." Sonia Caldwell was arrested in Miami last week for running a real estate scam. Apparently, she's been using fake identities to sell properties she doesn't own to retirees looking for vacation homes. I wasn't surprised. People like Sonia don't change. They just find new victims and new schemes. How much did she steal this time? Over $200,000 from at least a dozen people. The FBI thinks she's been running similar cons in 3 different states. Good. Maybe this time she'll actually face some consequences. There's more. The investigation turned up evidence of her scheme in Millbrook. The prosecutors want to talk to you about testifying against her. I considered it for a moment, then decided I'd already spent enough time and energy on Sonia Caldwell. Tell them I'll cooperate if they need me, but I'm not going out of my way to chase her down. She's not my problem anymore. After I hung up, I sat on my patio and watched the sun set over the parking lot of my modest apartment complex. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was honest and peaceful and entirely my own. My phone buzzed with a text message from Megan. "Heard about Sonia on the news. I'm sorry for everything she put us through. I hope you're doing well." I thought about responding, then decided against it. Some conversations were better left unfinished. Instead, I opened a beer and raised it in a toast to the empty air. "To the last gentleman standing," I said aloud, then drank deeply and smiled for the first time in months. It had been a long, ugly fight, but I'd survived it with my dignity intact. In